So picking up from where we left off on public speaking last week when I was on the road, one of the things that I did at the most recent event was I had subtitles, actually translated subtitles, on my slides as I was speaking. You can actually see here, you can see the slides themselves right underneath. It's translating what I'm saying in real time into Serbian, actually. So a few folks have asked, well, how does that work? Because there's a lot of benefit to doing that, right? Even if you're not doing translation, if you're just speaking normally to a crowd that speaks the same language as you, having subtitles improves accessibility, right? There are people who have a hearing impairment of some kind. That provides a lot more accessibility. And it doesn't have to be like a substantial loss of hearing. It can just be someone who has a hard time hearing. It can be the venue itself. I have been in venues where there's so much reverberation and echo that you can't actually hear clearly what somebody's saying because the sound is bouncing off the walls. And so using this technique can provide that. And there's also some folks who just prefer to read, right? They would actually prefer to read subtitles, even in a language that they're fluent in, just because that's how their brain works. Their brain works better that way. It's one of those interesting things where people who have no hearing disability just prefer to read the subtitles. So how do you do that? Well, let's go into Microsoft PowerPoint because that's the software that you use to do this. I've just brought up a simple slide here called Q&A. Go into the slideshow menu. And in the slideshow menu, there's a widget here called Always Use Subtitles. Now, to use this, you have to have an internet connection. You have to have an active internet connection. Does not work without that. And in the subtitle settings, we're going to choose here, so what's the spoken language? This is the language that you were speaking. And then what is the subtitle language? So let's go ahead and put this in English here. And then you choose the microphone that you're using, which I'm going to use this. And then you choose where you want your subtitles. Do you want them overlaid on your slides? Which depends on how your slides are formatted, right? If your slides are like mostly pictures, then overlaid it looks good. Below the slide is if your slides are like piles of words, or there's important visual information on every part of the slide. So I'm going to choose overlaid here. I'm going to go into slideshow. And what you should start to see is as I speak, the subtitles appear right inside of the slides. And this is how you make a presentation more accessible. No extra tools, no extra, crazy stuff. You're just putting those subtitles in. Now, again, let's go ahead and jump out of here. Suppose that I'm speaking to a language to an audience that is in, say, Denmark, right? I'm going to go ahead and turn this back on. And now, as I speak, it should start translating the words that I'm saying into Danish, putting Danish words on screen, which it clearly is here. Again, this is huge for accessibility, right? If you're speaking to an audience, you may even, if you know there are people in the audience, even in your own country, wherever that is, that speak another language that's prominent. For example, in the United States, there's a large percentage of people who also speak Spanish. If you know that there's a language barrier of any kind, you can reduce that language barrier by using these subtitles. And again, even if there isn't a language barrier, just being able to use these subtitles can provide great accessibility. So that's how I did it. Again, no crazy tricks. The only thing that I would classify as maybe a trick is you have to use something that gets audio to your computer. So I have, AirPods, and I just had one earbud in, the right earbud, because it can transmit sound. And that's what feeds PowerPoint. I will caution you, when it's on, which means if you say something, even under your breath, it appears on screen. So if you say, stupid people, it's going to show on the screen. So you have to make sure that once you turn this feature on, you are very cautious about what you say because everything is being transcribed in real time on screen. So be careful. Also, you'll want to work with organizers if there's a Q&A portion of your presentation, because sometimes what shows will do is they'll flip back to like some placeholder slide, and that's obviously then no longer your machine, which means subtitles are no longer available. So if there's a Q&A portion, you'll want to make sure that they know to leave that slide up so that your machine can keep translating or subtitling all the time. But again, great use for accessibility, great use for reducing language barriers. Totally, well, it's not free. It's built into Microsoft PowerPoint. So if you've got the most recent version, it's built right in. I would love to see as many public speakers as possible adopting this feature, because it costs you nothing. It costs you nothing, and it improves accessibility. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.